This is Music in Motion,
a podcast looking at how music moves us through our lives,
forward, backward, and everywhere in between.
Produced by the crew at KILO-FM and KRXP-FM in Colorado Springs.
Subscribe to this series to follow along as we journey through the music of our lives. And welcome to Music in Motion. Hey, I'm Crowley, and I have with me
Shawn
and
Cate.
Hey, guys.
Hey, welcome to it.
Hi.
Here we are in the X1039 studio.
Yep, shooting a movie of ourselves doing this, no less.
We have a budget of $1 million.
Yep.
A million pennies.
We're going to blow it all on fake blood.
So we thought we would tackle movie soundtracks as I got to be honest, I had no idea the Oscars were happening this coming weekend, correct?
I feel like I'm always surprised by when the Oscars show up.
They're usually in February, right?
Okay, that's what I thought. Like aren't they the same time as
February.
like the Grammys and all of that, right?
But everything's messed up. My mom used to make a special dinner for the Oscars every year. And we used to make a big deal of it.
Your whole family is a nerd. It's like a nerd family. But I will be honest, my kids love watching the Oscars and stuff too. So I am not a big award show person.
Sure.
So, but I do like the red carpet, like the dumb interviews on the red carpet.
True enough. Do you have a favorite that you can think of?
A red carpet moment?
Because I can tell you mine right now. It's Trey Parker and Matt Stone when they were tripping on acid and they wore Jennifer Lopez dresses.
Yeah,
to the
you didn't even have to watch it in that moment. That is so
that got
good.
replayed plenty.
Other than that, no.
So I watch every single award show ever. I never see any of the movies, but I watch because when John Travolta said Adele Dazeem when introducing Idina Menzel, I was so happy that I saw that live. And then when they mixed up the Oscar Best Picture, I saw that live. I was like, this is why
best.
I watch it. Because when you watch it later, it doesn't have the same meaning.
You're hooked in.
It felt like when the lights went out at the Super Bowl that one year of like, I'm really pleased to be a part of this.
We waste so much of our lives just hoping some kind of 30-second moment happens like
Right.
that.
My favorite thing to do during award shows is tweet.
Yeah,
naturally.
I think Tweeter. Hi, I'm 50. I think Twitter is the real place to hang during an award show. Okay.
Oh yeah.
But let's get back to movie soundtracks because that's what we thought we'd tackle. We got on the subject of, oh my God, the Oscars are happening this weekend. Oh my God, I had no idea that was even happening. Wait, what movies are even in, like,
right?
What movies happened? I don't know. We didn't even have the movies, you know?
I don't even think it makes a difference because I feel like maybe since like The Return of the King was nominated, like I see at best one of the Oscar Best Picture nominees by the time the Oscars roll around, if that. Usually none.
I've seen one, okay, and I can tell you right now, obviously, I know that 3 of them are streaming. I don't know about the other ones, so I'm just going to name them. Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. So those are all the movies for Best Picture. I've only seen Nomadland. That's all. I've not seen any of the other ones. I've heard that Sound of Metal and The Trial of the Chicago 7 are really good. Mm-hmm. But I've not seen them. So,
I want
which
to
is
see
weird because
Mank.
I pay for whatever 8 streaming services I possibly have on my TV right now. I could probably watch any one of these, and I'm not. I'm still like,
just rewatch
so
The
let's
Simpsons.
put Schitt's Creek on, or whatever.
Hey, what's new with Twin Peaks this week?
Right, exactly.
I've only seen The Office 1,000 times. Got to watch it again.
But we all started talking about our favorite movie soundtracks and all of that out of all of this, and so here we are. So I love movie soundtracks.
Yeah, when we brought this up, you were like, your face was just like, hey, do you want to meet Henry Rollins? As if that
coming up again, second week in a row.
He's an official, he's an official. Unofficial member of our podcast.
I come from a huge era as like my childhood of soundtracks, of movie soundtracks that own the airwaves or that were just, platinum. And so I think I was, raised on soundtracks. It's also how I have discovered music, different types of music over the years. So should I dive in? Because we thought we'd list like our top soundtracks, right? Is that what we're tackling? Okay. So I'm going to name one of my top ones, and then I'll just let you guys, because I could go on, and I guess we can rotate around. But let's start with the golden one, American Graffiti.
Oh, George Lucas.
Look, all right, in the 70s, people were obsessed with the 50s. Kind of like people are obsessed with the 90s now, right? So anyway, American Graffiti comes out. My parents are obsessed with it. They were kids, teenagers in the 50s. And so this is like, whoa, they're, blowing up our childhood on a movie. But you have young Ron Howard in that. The soundtrack, though, the soundtrack, the way we had it, or I still have it, is on vinyl. It is a double gatefold. You open it up, and my brother has a tattoo of the insert of the album.
Interesting choice of tattoo.
It's a waitress on roller skates in front of Mel's Diner.
I thought it was going to be like the listing of the song titles and their lengths.
Well, he may go that far because he's a sucker for American Graffiti, just like I am. We grew up on it, and so it's all like 50s music, top hits. But with that, the best part of this soundtrack, and he's also sort of like a centerpiece in the movie, is Wolfman Jack. Wolfman Jack is the voice between songs and this soundtrack. And so as a kid, I was just taken with Wolfman Jack and like, how do I do what Wolfman Jack does? How do I become Wolfman Jack? Nobody will be Wolfman Jack, but I'm just saying. So there you go. There's my first, soundtrack love, American Graffiti. And if you don't know it, go back and check it out because it's so amazing.
Plus, a great thing about that movie, it's the only movie of George Lucas's he hasn't gone back and added CGI to. So that I know of.
Yeah, the wreck in the end, that was real. There
was that moment when Ron Howard pulls out a lightsaber, but...
Well, and I didn't even mention, speaking of George Lucas, that Harrison Ford is in it. And Harrison Ford is the handsome sort of rebel racer guy.
Oh, wow, really playing against type there.
But, yeah, he's sort of a cowboy guy, too. So what about you?
Well, I want to jump on that real quick. Not one, I guess it was one I grew up on, but it was interesting, the 50s nostalgia, which kind of continued 20 years or so after that with the Forrest Gump soundtrack, which obviously featured like a lot of really classic tracks. 60s,
yeah,
70s.
Sure, yeah.
I remember that one being a huge deal, and it's like... Baby boomers, man. They just keep sucking up all the nostalgia oxygen in the room like it's all theirs.
And they do have some of the best music, though. I mean, you can't deny that of our parents.
Can't deny that. So, but speaking of the 90s, I got to mention the Crow soundtrack.
Yes.
So, I mean, as a disaffected youth in the 90s, that movie just, if you've got a little goth streak in you, like it's like heroin for people that are like gonna have an opiate problem, where it's just like I definitely dressed up as the Crow for several years for Halloween after that.
Do you have evidence of that that we can use to promote this podcast?
Of course not. Facebook didn't exist then. Thank goodness.
Your mom's camera did. She was ashamed.
I was like 13 by then. Do you think I was going to let my mom take a picture of me in my Halloween costume when 13? When I was already too old to be doing Halloween shit?
At
Probably
13?
Because free candy.
Okay, all right. Anyway, back to your sound. The Crow is awesome.
Better than free candy is like this goth ass, like super dark dude. Like, first of all, I just gotta mention 9 Inch Nails covering Joy Division's Dead Souls. Like, get out of here, dude. Come on. Like, a perfect combination there, and just like it's so dark. But also, there's so many cool moments in there. The band Medicine actually is in the movie. They're the band playing in the bar, and like finding that out got me into the band Medicine. There's a lot of like, the thing that's really cool I find like about a lot of soundtracks too is how many original songs that bands will record for them that become huge hits that you just sort of take for granted. Like Stone Temple Pilots' Big Empty was recorded for that movie, even though like it would appear on Purple later. But like, and everybody probably associates it with the album Purple, but like it's big because of that.
I don't think so, man. No, I think a lot of people associate it with The Crow. 100%.
Well, there you go. And it just, you know, here you go, like just let me just throw this song in for this soundtrack, and it becomes one of your biggest hits in your entire career. So, but I don't
think. Also, I just want to say, as far as the business side of it, you know, I'm not sure how many bands have to do this, but I know that in some instances with new bands, their labels will pay for them to be featured on a movie soundtrack or a game or a video game or whatever. And it's just such a huge exposure.
It was kind of like the original Spotify playlist of like,
for sure.
Like getting
that's
set
really
up.
Nice.
Thank you. I just thought of that. I didn't even have that one prepared. I'm so insightful in the moment.
Andy, impressive.
I also want to note that the Rollins band did a cover for the band Suicide. They did Ghost Rider, which is about the Marvel Comics character.
Henry Rollins Band?
Henry Rollins Band. Make sure,
my man.
That's why we've got him in here, because he's going to get mentioned every podcast.
Somehow Hank makes it into every podcast.
We're going to find a way. So, but... Like, that was how early in comic book movies that was, where, like, let's just put a song about a totally different character from a totally different company on the sound. It's fine. It's comic books. Fine. It's whatever. So it's all superheroes.
Yeah. In the 90s, the 90s were just peak for soundtracks, in my opinion.
Oh, dude, so many good ones.
Yeah.
I will be talking about the Kraft soundtrack later. So,
all right, Kate,
but let me cede my time. Yeah. Kate?
I want to toss in that Kate was going to not do this podcast with us because she was like, what do I have to add? And she popped in our conversation and proceed.
Well, okay, I'm a huge musical fan, first of all.
What?
So does that count? Like,
I had no idea.
So,
Kate, you don't talk about it all the time.
Most of my movie like soundtracks are like musicals that were made into movies. So I listen to like, you know, the Chicago soundtrack all the time. The In the Heights soundtrack is coming out on June 11th, which
I saw that. Yeah,
that's about to be one.
Right. But do musicals count?
That's what I'm wondering.
Okay. Do musicals count as soundtracks? Grease, great, but I'm just saying. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Okay, but it also got me thinking if I can add a millennial perspective into this,
sure.
like the late 80s and 90s Disney movies. Like, I'll drive around in my car going to and from work, and I'll be playing, like, Prince Ali from the Aladdin soundtrack from 1990. Wasn't that, like, 92?
Prince Ali. 92, 93, yeah, something like that.
As a parent of people your age, I know all of those movie soundtracks very well. So,
Hercules.
Lion King.
Dude, the Lion King was the biggest deal.
Tarzan.
Well, it's Elton John.
Elton freaking John, Tim Rice.
Yeah.
Like, that, that movie, like, everybody had that Lion King soundtrack in there.
And Tim Rice was Andrew Lloyd Webber's lyricist for all of his musicals. So it all just that's the crazy thing about Disney soundtracks is like they're just kids movies, right? Mm-hmm. But they get this insane talent to create these soundtracks, right? Like Tarzan.
It's called money.
That's exactly what I was gonna. They're just kids movies that make
a bunch of money.
$500 million.
Like, all right, our budget is $1 million.
This is shocking. Disney. Disney
that they're going to merchandise the shit out of it and just
the Tarzan soundtrack, though.
Okay, this is the one
Phil
that caught
Collins,
me.
like it's kind of weirdly like resurfacing right now that he just went like ham for that soundtrack. There's a TikTok. It's like, okay, Phil, it's just a kid's movie. It's just an animated movie about a guy that lives in the jungle. You don't have to go so huge with this. And then what he turns in is just like the heavens have opened up.
Why would somebody at the level of Phil Collins not go next level?
I know.
Like, what did they think? What are you trying to tell
Phil
Collins to like tone it down? It's like, What? Are you serious?
And he's already doing the drum riff from In the Air
I got
Tonight.
this,
He's like,
yeah.
oh.
Or no more. No more. No more. No more.
I don't want to go full circle here, but if I recall correctly, wasn't it Matt Stone and Trey Parker that like made fun of Phil Collins
100%,
for like a full season because he beat them at the Oscars?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Is that what
Was it
that's
for
what
the
they were
Tarzan
all, right?
soundtrack?
Oh my God,
Probably.
probably. Yeah, it was that time era, so that would make sense.
And,
Yeah.
Oh,
Weird.
well, here we go. Another amazing soundtrack is South Park, bigger,
Dude.
better, uncut.
Dude.
I'm not kidding. I was 10 years old listening, blaring that soundtrack from my room. My mom, we were the last like kids in our, in our family, and so she didn't care
Right.
by
You're
that
playing
time.
Uncle, Uncle Effort.
Yeah,
I didn't even say it.
The Miss
Kyle's mom.
Kyle's mom's a great bag. Yeah, that one.
Dude, but let me say, as somebody that doesn't get into musicals, like, that was not only a perfect parody of musicals, it was also like a perfect musical also.
Oh, Blame Canada.
Blame Canada.
Blame
I think
Canada.
One of my favorites, It's Easy, okay? You do come from an era of like really different soundtracks,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, exactly. One of my go-to soundtracks in college was the Social Network soundtrack, which
Yeah.
is so,
But it's
like,
so good.
nothing. Like,
I know, but
there's
it
like
is.
nothing, but
It is
like I didn't
something.
need Adderall in college to do my homework. Like I just listened to that soundtrack all the time when I was studying, and it just zoned me in for some reason.
But you're also a huge Trent Reznor fan.
Right.
Yeah.
Did that suck you in, like, because you knew that? Or do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
were you like, oh, he did this, I want to hear it?
Obviously a bias, yeah.
Oh.
My brother listened to it, and he's the one that told me, like, you have to listen to this. This is incredible. Mm-hmm. And I was like, for the Social Network? Really? And then I saw that Trent Reznor did it, and I was like, okay, I'll love it. I already did before I heard it.
I'll say this, like, movie scores, not the soundtracks, but that just have the music, like the underscore music of the movie, like, perfect for studying to or doing like creative work, like or even I used to fall asleep to the Braveheart soundtrack like nightly. That shit is so relaxing, and just, I'm in Scotland, I'm
Right.
gonna
And for me, like,
haven't
for
gotten
my,
drawn and quartered yet.
for my age, that goes straight to the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's, I mean, come on. Yeah, come on.
Wow.
I was
pretty
real
good.
worried I wasn't going to be able to pull it up.
You're like, oh, please.
Well, I want to talk about the soundtracks that actually either turned me on to new music or like sucked me into just something, different in my life. And I'm going to name two: Repo Man from 1984, Emilio Estevez, obviously star in that movie, but the soundtrack is 100% like, this is everything I love about punk rock, right? So you had Suicidal Tendencies. It maybe was the first time some people heard Institutionalized. By the way, back to Black Flag, Iggy Pop, which, by the way, happy birthday today, Iggy Pop doing the actual theme song, Repo Man. So yeah, that it had Fear on it, which is like one of my favorite punk bands of all time. But that I can't go on and on and on enough
No,
about
you
the
can't.
Repo Man soundtrack. If you want somebody young and you want to turn them on to 80s punk rock, like early 80s punk rock, you just give them that soundtrack. And then from there, they'll just like get sucked into this whole other world. You know what I mean? From a soundtrack, but also make them watch the movie, because that'll help too. That'll help too. So I got to see it when it was released in theaters in the town that I lived in Pullman, Washington. Washington State University was showing it in the student film, whatever theater. And so we went to see it, and I was like, this is changing my life. This is it. I wanted to be like Emilio Estevez. Like I cut my hair, I buzzed my hair,
Did the
like
full
everything.
auto?
I did. Yeah. I don't know what it was. I just related to auto so much.
Oh man, that I don't want to put you on the spot. Was that the first punk rock soundtrack?
No, I don't.
Because
that wouldn't have
I
been
know
the
there
first.
were a bunch around that time. I know we'd already talked about like Suburbia and everything.
Yeah, there's-
And I know
Yeah, but I don't think it would be considered the first punk rock.
I was going to say, I'm trying to think if there was another one before that, but I didn't prepare.
There are other punk rock movies that came before that, yeah.
I guess Rock and Roll High School, duh.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah, there's others. We could do a whole punk rock soundtrack episode, actually.
We honestly could, yeah.
Yeah, and so, anyway, that's where I'm going to stop there, because I could go on and on.
For real, everybody watch Repo Man.
But was there a soundtrack that, other than The Crow, that brought you into discovering new bands and a new sort of way of living, or changed your life in that way?
I can say,
or did The Crow do that?
I started doing witchcraft after I saw The Craft, and I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Started calling the corners.
I just had this weird vision of you, like being witchy, like
Sure.
like a Stevie Nicks teenager,
Like a
or
swamp
something.
witch?
Like I had to just totally stop for a minute and go, "He's joking."
I did start wearing, a lot of flowing dresses back then, and
There are a couple soundtracks that did. It was my first introduction to some of like the biggest alternative songs ever from like the 80s, the 90s. One of them, of course, is Garden State, because that introduced me to a lot of songs that I had never heard before. The first time I ever heard about the Shins was in that movie, and I was like, "What?" And then
that was the first time Zach Braff ever heard about the Shins too.
it is,
So,
yeah. We were
one
on the
headphone's
same
worth
page
anyway.
there. So yeah, that soundtrack introduced me to just a lot of that kind of music. And then another one was actually the movie 500 Days of Summer. That's the first time I ever heard a couple Pixies songs.
Neat.
Regina Spektor, Us, that song, that's the first time I ever heard that. So that movie is filled with just some of the, the alternative songs that you should know, but because I didn't really start educating myself that much on alternative until probably late high school.
Right.
I heard some of those songs for the very first time ever. And it's not music my parents would have listened to or anything like that. And so those soundtracks actually did kind of teach me a little bit about some of the bands that I should know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
I'm trying to think of what else was on the Garden State soundtrack. It was like
Iron and Wine,
Sneaker
I think.
Pimps
right?
was on there.
Was Iron and Wine on it?
Yeah,
I feel
Iron
like
and
they
Wine
were,
was on it. Probably.
So yeah,
It must have been.
Yeah, but that helped you sort of branch out in your musical taste.
And
too.
then the first time somebody asked if I knew who the Shins were, I was like, yeah. Why wouldn't I?
Right?
Duh.
That was like, yeah, exactly. That's kind of like what Repo Man did for me, for sure. Yeah.
I'll throw some love to the Lost Highway soundtrack, because that was a big deal for it's always interesting when there are those movie soundtracks that are so much bigger than the movies they were from.
For sure.
Judgment Night, anybody? I've never seen that movie, but first of all,
That's a new one in this whole conversation.
right? Rap metal should have been that and not Limp Bizkit. Just dude, Helmet and House of Pain, Sonic Youth and Cypress Hill, come on.
Again, there's just some that era, I think, of soundtracks that just housed so much greatness.
Yeah. But I want to go back to The Craft, because there was...
let's talk The Craft, because I could go head to head with you on this one.
Right. Well, and there's so the cool thing about that one, it was a lot of covers on that album. So not only did it introduce me to some of the bands that were performed on there, but also the bands that were getting covered. That was the first time I ever heard a cover of the Smiths, because that when was it Love Spit Love that did How Soon Is Now?
Yeah.
Which later became the Charmed theme song, obviously. But I'd never heard the Smiths until that moment.
I don't know that.
Obviously.
It was always
the
on
only people
TBS.
I know that love Charmed are dudes.
I've never seen it. It just, I would always catch that opening,
You
opening
have
theme.
watched Charmed. Don't lie.
I saw it
Look
once
who's
when I was
in
at
it.
someone's house.
They were making me
Alyssa
watch
Milano,
it.
watch it.
Yeah.
You are a liar. You're
Two.
100% liar. I've never watched Charmed. Yes, you have.
Touche. But also, it's got Letters to Cleo covering the Cars.
Yes.
Which is just a sentence you don't ever expect to say.
The Craft did so well is use those songs, though, to create a mood in so many of the scenes. A complete mood. And a mood change, because that movie is built on that, that from scene to scene, the moods either escalate or get really dark or comical, but it's just like boom, 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 boom. It's like one after the other with the craft.
That's true. It felt like the music got darker as the movie went along. Especially because you open up with like a Beatles cover. So of all things, by Our Lady Peace, dude. If nothing else, too, so distinctly 90s, all the bands that were on there, like bands that were absolutely left in the 90s, Tripping Daisy and Elastica. But I love Elastica a lot.
But they're quality bands. They bands
really
that
are.
Shouldn't have been left in the 90s.
I know.
Because they're so good.
But now it's like, Letters of Cleo was on there, and they're just a punchline when Ben wears their T-shirt to show that he's depressed on Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
So,
I want to say that I think we could go on and on about soundtracks, but can we all agree that the 90s maybe had some of the best?
Oh, 100%. Dude, Reality Bites.
And obviously you have the strong ones from the 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mentioned, American Graffiti, Saturday Night Fever, not to double up on the John Travolta, but Urban Cowboy from the early 80s is absolutely one of the greatest soundtracks, and a lot of them are multi-platinum as well. So they're significant and for a reason and historical. But the 90s just captured that time. From Hackers is another good one.
Yeah.
But even The Crow 2 has a killer soundtrack. And I'm going to throw this one out because maybe not a lot of people are familiar with this one. Basketball Diaries.
Yep.
The movie itself is about Jim Carroll, punk rock poet, and his experience growing up in New York City in the 70s and just how raunchy it was. Also, he was a Catholic schoolboy, so there was abuse, and all of that is tackled. But on that soundtrack, not only is Pearl Jam, minus Eddie Vedder, the backing band for him when he re-recorded his songs like Catholic Boy, but Soundgarden is on it, Flea solo, and then you throw in Jim Carroll doing his poetry reading between songs himself. It's a super thought out soundtrack for sure. And Leonardo DiCaprio is the star of Basketball Diaries. He plays Jim Carroll. So it's just super significant. If you haven't seen it, definitely see it, but prepare yourself because it's dark. It's super dark.
Can I throw out another one?
Yeah,
quick?
yes. I would say let's get our last thoughts in here.
Okay.
I have a few ready.
That Thing You Do. Because that one was...
Yes.
That's an interesting one because all the songs are by fake bands that were written for the
Oneaters?
The movie, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I mean,
Not
it
for
was
the
Fountains of
Oneaters.
Wayne that wrote the actual song, That Thing You Do. I
no
don't know if
kidding.
they wrote all of them.
It was the band, or it was what's his name? I thought, or was it the band was the band?
Well, I don't know, but that soundtrack is so good because it's 5 songs by the Wonders that they perform in the movie, and then the rest are the songs that they wrote for the other fake artists in that movie, Freddie Fredrickson, right?
Yeah.
Or the Chantrelles.
Is that the Chantrelles? Is the
I've seriously
Chantrelles?
only seen that movie
Chantrelles.
one time.
Wild.
So I'm
Captain Geach and the Shrimp Shack Shooters is on there. That whole soundtrack is great.
Is Liv Tyler in that movie?
Yes. I think
So
that was
good.
one of her first major movie roles, too.
What about Empire Records?
Touche. All right, well.
Shut your ass down.
I've never even... I'm one of the few people in radio
that's... transition and you
I
just
know. I'm one of the few people that's in radio that's never seen Empire Records, so I'll shut up and you tell me.
Look at her face.
Tell us about it.
What?
I know. Everyone talks about Rex Manning Day, and I never get the reference, but one of these days.
I'm sorry. I'm just totally...
Oh, we just derailed.
Fired.
Empire Records is right up your alley.
I know.
What in the heck?
I know.
I haven't seen any movie ever, and I've seen that one.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I will say this. I want to know, if you're listening to this podcast, what are some that we missed? I know there's thousands and thousands that we missed, but be sure to hit us up, comment, of course, share this podcast, and contact us. Yeah, everything is located below, so you can reach us in socials, DM us, all of that.
Real fast before we go, John Carpenter scores. and Angelo Badalamenti's work on Twin Peaks, which is not a movie. There was a movie later, which honestly is a really great soundtrack. Fire Walk with Me.
Okay, and with that...
But that's all I'm going to say about it. So
top
good.
directors that, do well with soundtracks. Obviously, David Lynch.
Martin Scorsese. I would also throw out Quentin Tarantino.
Yep. And also Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler, don't fight me on this. Okay.
Adam Sandler captures... emotions with his soundtracks because he uses a lot of classic rock songs.
True enough.
But The Wedding Singer is 100% excellent soundtrack. So
Dumb and Dumber soundtrack is great too. It's got a lot of dumb songs, but
doesn't it have the Crash Test Dummies on it? They do. It does. I remember that scene.
When you said John Carpenter,
and Jenny says,
I laughed because I can't believe we went that whole time without you talking about John Carpenter.
I'm wearing a John Carpenter shirt right now.
He's been ready for 3 days to unload.
I've been playing the Halloween soundtrack the whole time and creeping people out. Just ready to go.
We'll have to do a part 2 because now they're all coming to me.
Yeah, we'll do Halloween part 2.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. All right. Music in Motion, movie soundtrack edition. Cut.
Thanks for listening to Music in Motion.
In this series, we'll cover how music moves us, influences us, and changes us.
Past, present, and future.
We hope you take this ride with us.